Welcome back to TK Tennis and the first hits video for Kirschbaum Max Power. You can consider it a first impressions video. I'm changing up the format. If you're familiar with my one rally, everybody knows the rules format. I figured I'll change it up a little bit and do a first hits video or first impressions video, and then also do a Q&A from some of the comments I've recently gotten. Max Power. So this is coming on the heels of my first A+ string rating ever, which was Head Lynx Tour. Moving to Kirschbaum Max Power, you would think by the name that this would be a polyester string that would give you more power. Well, I didn't necessarily feel that at all in terms of my first hits. I felt it was sort of like normal average power. It also feels a lot like Kirschbaum Super Smash or Kirschbaum Orange. I think the official name now is Kirschbaum Orange, in terms of pretty much everything with the exception that it feels stiffer than Kirschbaum Orange does. Even on the stringing machine, this string feels the same as Orange. It has the same sort of coating on it. It's very smooth. Even the coiling effect is pretty much feels exactly the same as Kirschbaum Orange. So not a lot of difference in terms of feel on the court and on the stringing machine, with the exception of stiffness, which does make a difference in terms of playability, which I'll get to that in the full review at the end of the week. I also want to make one small update regarding my Head Lynx Tour review. I gave it a stiffness rating originally of a 6 out of 10. Upon some reflection, I'm going to lower that to a 5 out of 10. I think some people may even think that it's a little bit towards the softer side of medium, like a 4 out of 10. It may not seem like a big update or a big change, but I think I had a false impression because the tension maintenance was so good that it felt a little bit stiffer than it actually was. After playing with Super Smash again and Max Power, I'm realizing it's not as stiff as I thought it was. And I think a 5 out of 10, or if some people even want to rank it a 4 out of 10, is a little bit more accurate, at least the champagne color. Eventually I'll have a spreadsheet or a database where people can look up the ratings and I can make changes, because of course I can't make the change in the video itself. All right, moving on to the Q&A and answering some comments. The first one was from Dan's channel 169. He was referring to Head Lynx Tour when he said, if it was good enough for Dominic Thiem, it'll be fine for us mere mortals. And I don't necessarily agree with that when it comes to other strings. Many pros play with strings that wear out quite quickly or lose their playability quite quickly. Examples would be Yonex Polytour Pro, Alu Power, Head Hawk Touch, all used by a lot of top pros. And us as recreational players, we want our strings to last a little bit longer because we don't have the luxury of stringing them every 45 minutes to an hour like pros are constantly using a fresh set of strings. When it comes to Head Lynx Tour, that does apply. Head Lynx Tour has fantastic longevity, and therefore it is also great for recreational players. Moving on to the next comment was Czech Tennis Guy. He says, in regards to are thicker or thinner strings better? I know that's a broad statement, but in general playability, I think most people are under the belief that thinner strings play better than thicker strings. And that's a poll that I posted on the channel, and 75% of the people agreed with that statement, that they think, or they thought that thinner strings are better overall playability than thicker strings. And I've been under that same impression, but I've been starting to question that a little bit. And the reason is my son uses 1.30 Head Lynx Touch, and he got in a couple sets of 19 gauge Head Lynx Touch. He was playing quite bad, where his shots were much more erratic than they normally are when he went to 19 gauge. And then after about an hour, he switched back to his normal 1.30 gauge or a 16 gauge, and his hitting improved immediately. And I could tell it. And I was asking him because I didn't know he was playing with the 19 gauge. And I just asked him, what's wrong with you? Why are you hitting so poorly? And he's like, it's these strings. So that made me post that poll and sort of question, are thinner strings better than thicker strings? And I think what I'm finding out, since I've started playing with thicker and thinner strings, since I typically play with 125 strings or 16L gauge strings, and I don't venture outside that thickness just for the consistency of these string reviews. But now that I'm playing with thicker and thinner strings, I'm starting to realize some truths. And that is that thinner strings seem to give you more spin and potential pop and power, but they become a little bit more erratic with less control. So when I'm using a 1.30 16 gauge, I'm finding that my control is better than when I'm using an 18 gauge string. So that's what I'm finding. The question becomes, would you rather have more string in power and lose some or sacrifice some control? In my book, absolutely not. I would want to have the control first and foremost and sacrifice spin and power. But I think some people may want to have more spin and power. So let me know what you think in the comments if that is true in your mind. Another comment was from Gene1554. This string needs a break-in period, referring to Head Lynx Tour. And I would agree. Some strings need a little bit of a break-in period where they play better. I think most polyester strings and multi-filament strings play best right from the rip, right from the first hit. But there are some strings that seem to need a little bit of a break-in period. And I think that's true with Head Lynx Tour. It seemed to play better after a half hour than it did right off the first hits. All right, and the last comment was from Anthony2671. He said he couldn't play with Head Lynx Tour because it plays a full gauge thicker and heavier than other 17 gauge strings. And he said Lynx Tour adds 10 points of swing weight compared to his confidential 18G. Now, I think 10 points heavier in swing weight is pretty much impossible, but a lot of other people have commented that Head Lynx Tour is thicker and heavier than a lot of other comparable 16L or 17 gauge or 1.25 strings. And Tennis Daddy also confirmed that it is heavier for sure, and it added 2 grams compared to Restring Zero. So I think it could add 1 or 2. I'm going to find out for sure, and I'm going to do a little short video after I'm able to weigh both a normal 125 string versus Head Lynx Tour to see how much weight it actually does add. I don't think many people can notice 1 or 2 points of swing weight. I'm pretty swing weight sensitive, or very swing weight sensitive, and I don't think I would notice 1 or 2, or certainly not. Would I notice 10? Absolutely. So we'll find out in the future how true that is and how much heavier Head Lynx Tour is than some other comparable strings. And here you're going to see my son knocks the camera down, knocks the tripod down with my iPhone on it. Bingo, direct hit. Luckily it didn't do any damage. All right, one final note, I started a new program. If the program is Buy Me a Coffee, but I'm calling it Buy Me a Set of Strings, or just contribute a few bucks if you're interested in helping me buy more strings, that would be wonderful. The link is in the description. And if not, that's great too. Continue to watch the videos. And don't forget to like and subscribe.